Welcome to the Spa Girls podcast, the self-publishing podcast for authors. You're in the right place for the best writing, marketing, and publishing advice, plus interviews with industry experts and best-selling authors. I'm Cheryl Phipps.
I'm Shah Barrett.
I'm Wendy Vella.
And I'm Trudy J. Hello, everyone.
Hi again.
Welcome to the spa. And this week we have an awesome guest. I'm super excited. We have Jenna Moreci.
Did I say it right?
Jenna. Hello. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, it was so great. So what we're going to do is Shah's going to read your bio, and then we're going to get right into talking about YouTube for authors. So here we go.
Cool.
Okie dokie. So Jenna Moreci is a best-selling dark fantasy romance and writing craft author, as well as an absolute, that's my word I inserted into her bio, YouTube sensation with hundreds of thousands of subscribers. Her first installment in the Saviors series, The Saviors Champion, was voted one of the best books of all time by Book Depository. Born and raised in Silicon Valley, Jenna spends her free time snuggling up with her charming partner and their tiny, gorgeous dog who's with her currently as we're recording this, Buttercup. You can find Jenna at jennamoreci.com and on Writing with Jenna on YouTube. Welcome, Jenna. It is so wonderful to have you with us.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me.
No worries at all. So I just want to say you've got, as of this morning, 279 subscribers on your YouTube channel.
279,000.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's our subscriber rate, Judy.
No. We've got over 1,000. Come on, we're almost there.
We are almost at 2,000, but I know.
And 374 videos.
It's basically the entire population of the South Island of New Zealand just subscribing to.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And how many millions of views did we say? 28 million views. Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow. That's awesome. Yeah.
That's impressive.
So, but before we get into the YouTube stuff, I want to go back to the very beginning, the dawn of time, when you first started out. Not that you're old. Oh my God, I didn't mean it like that. Can you tell us how you got into writing and self-publishing and your writer's journey, please?
Well, that is going way back to the beginning, because I've literally wanted to be a writer since I was 6 years old. In my first grade class, once a week, we would quote unquote write books, which is where we would draw, on paper, and we had, write little stories, and we would bind it with construction paper. And being a weirdo since birth, the very first book I wrote in the first grade was called The Funeral, and it was about a dead cat. I swear I am not. I love animals. I didn't understand the concept of funerals. I thought it was kind of like going to a wedding, like it's exciting. Anywho, it prompted a very uncomfortable discussion between my teacher and my mom. But since then I was hooked. I was like, this is what I want to do with the rest of my life. And so I began studying the craft of storytelling literally since I was a child. I kept writing books and little notebooks and everything. And they eventually became better than The Funeral. But like a lot of young creatives experience, I received a lot of backlash, like this was the 90s. Self-publishing wasn't really a thing at the time. You were basically, you only had one option to publish, and that was traditional. And it was very, very, very hard to get traditionally published. So I had a lot of adults telling me that, oh yeah, this isn't a viable career. You should pursue something else. So writing was always a hobby. Writing was always something I did on the side. And I ended up pursuing the more quote unquote logical career choice. And I got a degree in finance, which is so close to writing. I mean, they're practically the same thing, storytelling, really numbers.
Yeah, it's really funny. There's a lot of people who are writers who tell us they got like jobs in accounting and finance, because it's like, it's funny. It's like, it's almost like if I can't do my dream, I have to do something really horrible that I don't like.
Yeah, I was a stockbroker and an accountant. So yes, so I pursued that path. And there was one time I came home from work and I realized, oh my gosh, this is the rest of my life. This is how it's going to be. I hate my job and I'm going to be doing this 40 hours a week for the rest of my life. And I started trying to look into getting different jobs, and everything else available to me was just as bad, if not worse. And so I thought, you know what, I'm going to give writing a try on the side. I'm going to come home from work and start writing a book, and see if I can make it a lucrative part-time job, like a lucrative hobby. And if I can't do that, if it totally crashes and burns, at least I know I tried, you know?
Yeah.
So that's how I got into this. It's also how I got into YouTube. Fast forwarding several years of, working on my debut novel. And I was blogging at the time, trying to get myself out there. At this point, I was researching traditional versus self-publishing, and I realized self-publishing was definitely the route I wanted to go in.
When was this? What year? How long ago?
I think like 2014, around there. But I was blogging, I was working on this book, I was trying to create an online presence. And a lot of people who read my blog said, you should start a YouTube channel because you just kind of have that personality for it. You're funny, I think you would do really well there. And my thought process was absolutely not. I'm an introvert. I don't want to put my face on the internet. That's just not going to happen. But along the way, I had a bit of a family tragedy. My partner had an accident and broke his spine, and I quit my job in accounting so that I could take care of him full time. And as he relearned to walk and get better, I started going back into writing. And when you go through something like that, it kind of changes your perspective on life, and you realize you don't have a lot of time, and so you might as well take the risks and do what you can to make every day count. So I started the YouTube channel, and my goal was 100 subscribers. If I got 100 subscribers, I would feel victorious. And a very long story, somewhat shorter, I am now almost at 300,000 subscribers. And by the time I released my debut book, because of my YouTube channel and how much it had grown, I was not only able to make writing a lucrative hobby, but I was able to make it my full-time job. So now I am a full-time writer and YouTuber, and I am making a lot more as a writer than I ever made in that quote unquote logical job in finance.
Yeah.
So
Love it.
It's fantastic.
It's great.
How long were you YouTubing, Jenna, before your book came out? Was it a year or not long? Okay.
Maybe 6 months.
Oh, okay.
Somewhere between 6 months and a year. I think I only had around 10,000 subscribers when my first book came out, but it was enough that I was at that point, my partner was well enough where I could look into going back to work part-time. And I was like, well, I don't need to, because I'm making ad revenue from YouTube. And now I'm making, I'm selling books, and I'm actually, making a living off this. And then it eventually, as more books came out, it just kind of snowballed, and genuinely cannot believe that I'm living my dream now. And, it is largely because of YouTube.
Wow,
fantastic.
that's awesome. So that first book, was that dark romance, fantasy romance as well, or was it?
That was a sci-fi adventure, and it was sort of like my stepping stone. I have since unpublished it only because I decided to take my career in a very different path writing wise, but it was such a learning experience for me, and I'm so grateful that I took that step, and it holds a very special place in my heart. But yeah, I decided to go a different way after that.
Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit about your books that you write? So how many books do you have, genre, how long are they generally? Just give us a little bit of a rundown.
Sure. Well, I have published 4 books. 3 of them are currently still published, and I'm working on another book currently, obviously. The first 2 fiction books that are out right now are The Savior's Champion and The Savior's Sister. They are dark fantasy romance companion novels. So they follow the same timeline, but 2 different people and their, different experiences. And I am currently working on the sequel, The Savior's Army. So I'm really, really excited about that. It's sort of a ancient Grecian inspired world with a deadly tournament and a magical queen and all the forbidden romance. It's just all the stuff that I've wanted to write ever since I was a kid, except a lot more violent now because I'm an adult and I got weirder over time, apparently. But I also write writing craft books for writers, largely because my YouTube audience was like, when are you going to write a writing craft book? You give so much writing advice, you know, put it in a book. So this year I released my very first writing craft book, Shut Up and Write the Book. And it is basically a step-by-step guide to, you know, crafting your first novel, you know, for people who are overwhelmed and don't know what to do or the order of operations. I basically break down my personal writing process. And it's like, hey, if this works for you, great. If only pieces of it work for you, that's great. But here's how I do it. And hopefully it helps people out. And so far, people have been really, really enjoying it. So it's been fun.
That's a great title. Love that title.
It is.
Yeah.
Thank you. It goes with my brand of humor. You know, I'm very direct. I'll just put it that way.
We joked when we were before we came on and before we met with you, Jenna, we joked that title could have been, if Wendy was going to write a writing craft book, that would be her title. Like that is Wendy could have that phrase on her t-shirt because you know I'm the navel gazer type. Wendy is not, and that is exactly her title. It's a brilliant title for her.
Thank you. I love it.
So she might not have any other advice in the book. You gave other advice. Wendy's advice would be, no, just shut up and write the book.
Right.
Sit down and shut up.
Sit down, shut up, write it. Yeah.
Okay. So let's go back into the YouTube channel and start talking about that. So you started it. Did I get that right? Around about 2014, or was that?
Yes. Yes, around there. Yeah.
And so did it snowball quickly? Like you got to 10,000 subscribers in 6 months? Is that
It started off very slow. I mean, it took a few months just to reach 100 subscribers. And there was a point where I was trying really hard to be professional, and I was trying really hard to be straight-laced and prim and proper. And that's just not my vibe. That's not my thing. And it got to a point where I was like, you know what? No one's watching. I'm just going to be myself and, you know, stop trying to be something I'm not, because no one's paying attention. So what's the risk? And that's when it snowballed. Once I started to keep it real, you know, I have a bit of a potty mouth, just a little bit. I, you know, stopped bleeping out swear words and stopped avoiding the swear words. I just was being my authentic self. You know, I'm very sarcastic. I'm, you know, very direct, as I mentioned, and I just took my channel in a more authentic direction. And that's when it snowballed. And it was funny because I was at my sister's bachelorette party when it happened. And so we're at Disneyland in like bachelorette party tutus and Mickey Mouse ears, and everyone's, you know, fawning over my sister because she's getting married. And meanwhile, I'm in the corner on my phone, like, oh my gosh, like I'm getting thousands of subscribers and I can't tell anyone because I don't want to steal her thunder. But I'm just like freaking out in the corner of this line, like the Toy Story. It was a Toy Story ride. I remember it vividly. I'm just like, I got 9,000 subscribers overnight. What is happening? You know, and it was all because I started to be authentic on my channel. People think that it's like, oh, it's the swearing. It's not the swearing. It's people like other people who are real. You know, they like authenticity. And so that was kind of what changed everything.
That's cool. I'm not sure if you read the book, Mark Bergen's Like, Comment, Subscribe book on the rise of YouTube. I highly recommend it to any creator, especially those of us that are trying to get a foothold onto YouTube. And obviously you've got more than a foothold, you're up the mountain, but it's exactly what it reiterates in that. It goes like from the real early days and what was connecting with people, and it was exactly that. It was that authentic connection.
Exactly. So that's usually my biggest piece of advice for people who are looking to get into YouTube, because after I started to, you know, my platform blew up, a lot of people were trying to mirror what I do, which is very flattering, but it wasn't working out for them. And it's like, well, that's because you're just being Jenna part 2. They want to see you know, like I didn't crack the code. I just started to be myself, you know, and so that's really what you got to do. If yourself is prim and proper, is very cutesy and flowery, like be that, and people will like it because they can tell that you're being yourself, you know. So it really is the best piece of advice for YouTube.
And so did you kind of sit down and plan, like, this is my audience, this is what I'm going to do, or I mean, or I'm guessing maybe you didn't at the beginning, but was there a point at which you did that? And do you know now, like, who are you aiming at?
I was aiming it at readers and writers. I was giving, obviously I still do this, I give a lot of writing advice. And that's in part because a lot of writers are also readers, I would hope so. So there's a lot of overlap there, but I also make videos specifically that you don't have to be a writer to enjoy. Anyone who loves books will enjoy them. And I try to gear my content to be likable for people who would also like what I write. So for example, I mentioned before, I have a bit of a potty mouth. My books are filled with cussing. So if people in the comments say things like, you know, you're swearing really will alienate people. And I'm like, well, good. I'm alienating the people who wouldn't like my books and would give them 1 stars because people are swearing in them. I talk a lot about romance on my channel because I also write romance. You know, I talk a lot about fantasy on my channel because I also write fantasy. So I do try to gear it toward the type of people who would enjoy my books. However, I also try to give just general writing advice that any writer could appreciate, because I know how it feels to go through the whole process by yourself and have no idea what you're doing, you know? And so it's like, I've been there, let me make it a little bit easier for you. So yeah, but at the start of it all, like I said, I only thought I'd have 100 subscribers. So I didn't have as clear cut of a plan, but once it snowballed, I was like, okay, I think I really need to like rein this in and figure out what I'm doing.
Yeah. That's awesome. Cool. And so what's your most popular post? Like, is there one that's like...
My most popular video is, I can't remember the exact title, but I think it's like my, like the 10 worst female character tropes. And then one of the other popular videos is the 10 worst male character tropes. And so I break down the type of female characters that I really hate reading about in books, like the woman who is stunningly beautiful but thinks she's ugly, and the sexy lamp, where it's like she doesn't really do anything in the book except she's just there to be sexy, and you could replace her with a lamp and she would still have just as much agency, things like that. I just break down. People really like it when I talk about tropes that I hate. So I guess people can relate, I guess. So but people also get mad, but that's
kind of good too, right? At least you're thinking about it. You're making
touching on that. Do you get a lot of negative comments?
I mean, I'm a woman on YouTube, so yes, I've gotten, threats. I've had cyber stalkers.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and I've had a lot of weird experiences. Someone asked to buy my worn underwear. Anything that you can expect from the internet and its grossness, I have absolutely experienced. And that was part of the reason why I was so hesitant to get on YouTube. I was like, oh gosh, I'm gonna have to deal with trolls, and they definitely are there. But I'm very fortunate because a vast majority of my audience is extremely supportive and kind and positive. It seems sort of like my niche in YouTube is all the people who feel othered. I have a large LGBTQ plus audience. I am neurodivergent, so I have a high neurodivergent audience as well. And a lot of these people are just extremely supportive and kind. And so I'm very grateful for that. So yes, I have absolutely experienced trolls. And if you're looking to get on YouTube, it is something you need to prepare for. But I'm fortunate that, most of my following is extremely lovely and wonderful.
Yeah. Awesome. Keep focusing on the majority and not the weirdo minority kind of thing. But
exactly.
It's the downside of, I guess the more the subscriber numbers and the more the views go up, the more that you just get that attention. And of course, even just the word romance writing and anything, of course,
it's not real writing.
Being part of that community, you're already
you're going to get a real job.
And it's like, let me dry my tears with my $100 bills. Romance is the single most popular fiction genre, so we're not real writing all the way to the bank.
Exactly. Give me more of that.
That whole adage, why don't you write something serious like a thriller? Because let's face it, we all go out and stab each other every day. You know what I mean? mean? It's
so
like,
realistic. Yeah.
yeah, so realistic, you know. Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
So just back on the subscribers, have you ever done anything to kind of boost your subscribers, or has it just been a natural, organic kind of thing?
It's been a natural, organic thing. There are some, like, I guess you could say tips and tricks for trying to get more subscribers, but there are things that everyone on YouTube does, and I don't even know if it actually pays off. So it's where you say toward the beginning of the video, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and be sure to ring that bell. Things like that, just reminding people to please subscribe and like the video. That's supposed to help with the algorithm. I have no idea if it actually does. I haven't done any data or study on it. And when I first started my channel, I gave an incentive to my audience where for every 10,000 subscribers I'd feature my partner Cliff in a video because my audience is obsessed with him. They love him. He's no longer in a position where he wants to be on YouTube, so I don't do that anymore. But for a while that was really working because people just loved him. He's a total goofball and he's really funny, so people loved seeing him in the videos. But I support his privacy. So, I don't blame him. I don't you see the trolls and mean comments, and after a while he's like, yeah, I don't think YouTube's for me. I'm like, I get it.
Yeah, totally get it.
Oh, that sucks. So what about things like the cover image and the you've got the 10 worst female character tropes? I mean, that in itself I can see is
Hooky.
and drawing people in. Are you doing those kinds of things?
Is there a secret to hooking them into actually watching the video?
Yeah, there's certain keywords in the title that you should go for. So I look for trends. Anything with the word worst in the title, it's gonna, bring people in.
What does that say? It's a spray.
Say about us as a society.
Exactly. And it's funny because best also brings people in, but it's 1/3 compared to worst. People love to hear rants.
And other people's failures. Yeah.
And it's a little frustrating for me just because I don't want my channel to be all rants. You know what I mean? I think that's very negative. And a lot of people on YouTube, that's the route they go, that all they do is rant because they know that it gets the views. But for me, that's bringing a lot of negativity into the world. And I've experienced enough of that. So while I will make videos talking about the worst sci-fi tropes or the worst fantasy tropes, I try not to make that overtake my whole channel. I limit that to once a month or something like that. Thumbnails, a eye-catching thumbnail really helps get people interested. Thumbnails that include my dog tend to perform better. I have no idea why. And silly faces. People love silly faces in the thumbnails.
I was going to say that you've got some great silly faces on your one. You're lucky that you look cute when you're doing them.
Thank you. I've learned that looking silly does better for me than trying to look pretty. So I'm I'll just bust out the dumb faces and it's making me money. It's fine. I don't care.
But I think that goes to the authenticity thing. I look at someone who's trying to look all beautiful and then I'm like, not interested in you. Actually, I'd rather someone who's a bit silly and funny and whatever,
Exactly.
So how long, what's the sweet spot for a video, do you think?
For a length of time?
Yeah.
It depends and it varies over time. So right now, YouTube has been offering YouTube Shorts, basically to keep up competition with TikTok. So those videos need to be less than a minute long, pretty much. So those are doing really, really well right now. For a long time, the sweet spot for YouTube videos was anything less than 10 minutes. And then people started to get really into YouTube video essays and things like that. And you see some YouTubers out there who have videos that are an hour long. Personally, that as both a viewer and a YouTuber, that'll never be me. I do not have the patience for that. But people get really into these video essays. So I started to increase the time of my videos. Now my videos are usually around 15 minutes long and I do YouTube Shorts. However, it's just constantly changing.
Yeah.
So I would say now even longer than 15 minutes, people are getting really into really long videos. But for me, it's less about keeping up with the Joneses at this point and more just being authentic to myself and what I want to create for my audience.
Yeah.
So
We
how
put our
often are you
podcast. Sorry. I was just going to say, we post our podcast, so we will post this on, and obviously we don't, we we like to raw and unplugged is our theme. So we put the whole thing up. And I've noticed on our stats, usually we get the average watch is about 18 minutes, which surprised me because that's a long time, right? Like that, you know, if you take that in the average. And I know myself, I'm a gardening channel addict, and I constantly watch videos 40 minutes plus. So I guess it just depends on the audience as well. But it's interesting, isn't it?
I agree. Yeah, the bookish audience on YouTube, like Booktube and AuthorTube and things like that, they seem to, well, at least Booktube seems to prefer the long videos. That's not really my thing, but yeah, it does seem like people are gravitating toward longer content.
Which is good. I think maybe we're just worn down by the TikTok. I don't know. Like you say, it's changing all the time, right? So
exactly.
So how often do you post, Jenna?
Well, I'm currently in a bit of a hiatus due to some family medical stuff. But before the hiatus, I would post one video a week. I would post every Wednesday. So there would be like 4 to 5 videos coming out a month.
Is that a
posting
common
on the same day every week is relevant? You know, like people will be expecting you.
Cool. Yes. It's good to have a schedule, both to keep yourself, you know, kind of held to a certain standard, you know, keep yourself accountable. There we go. And also, so, you know, your viewers know when to expect you. So yeah, I would always do every Wednesday, the video is going to come out. And it's usually around like noon that I share the video. And so people always know when to expect it.
Yeah.
Is that normal? Like, are most YouTubers posting sort of one a week, or are there people doing daily videos? Like,
it's definitely more common to post multiple times a week. I would say that the standard is 3 times a week, but I'm writing books. Like, I don't have time for that, you know? And I'm not, for me, YouTube was always a means to an end, in the sense that I created the YouTube channels, you know, to help boost my writing career. I consider myself a writer first and a YouTuber second. So it never was supposed to overlap or take over. I'm shocked and thrilled and happy that I have as many subscribers as I have, but I'm not out here trying to be like, I want to reach 1 million subscribers. Like that's neither here nor there to me. For me, it's all about having a platform that I can use to help sell my books. So if YouTube were ever to get to a point where it was overtaking the writing, that's what I would dial it back, as opposed to moving forward. But yeah, most YouTubers, they post at least 3 times a week. That's just not going to work for me. That's not going to happen.
I really admire that, Jenna. You've kept your kind of your compass, if you like, of your why. You know, we often talk about on this podcast, you know your why as a writer. And I think particularly from the success and just the sheer numbers, like I know we started our channel 3 years ago, started posting these videos 3 years ago, and it's been a slow growth, you know. And I just really admire that, because I can imagine with those literally tens of thousands and then hundreds of thousands, it would be really easy to kind of get sucked into that. Like, you know, I think it would be tremendously, it would be hard to keep that balance. So I really admire that you've got the focus and you know the why right from the start.
Yeah, and I've met other writers who are YouTubers who were so focused on growing their channel, they were like, I haven't written, you know, anything in years. And I'm like, well, then what's the point of having this YouTube channel? Because they're using it to sell their books. It's like, you don't have any books to sell. You're not writing anything, you know. And they would say, I spent 64 hours editing a single video, and I'm like, oh honey, like this you're missing the point, you know. That there's you know, and there have been times where YouTube was overtaking my writing, mostly because things in my personal life, you know, my partner has a chronic illness, and so if I wasn't doing YouTube, I was being a caregiver. So there were times where YouTube felt like it was overtaking, and that's currently why I'm on hiatus from YouTube right now, is because you know, that's not what I want. I am trying to finish this book. I want to get this book out. That is more important to me than, you know, the numbers and the views and things like that. But yeah, I think that's something that people need to be cognizant of, especially if you're an author on YouTube. If your goal is just to be a YouTuber, then, pump out as many videos as you want. But if you're an author using YouTube, you really need to be aware that this is supposed to boost your platform, not take away, not take time away from what's really important.
Yeah.
So going back to basics, is it hard to set up a YouTube channel? Did you have to do a lot of research before you started, just for the people that are listening and think, oh, this might suit me?
Well, when I started, I started at the perfect time. One, because there were pretty much no writers on YouTube. I did research and there were only 3 that I could find. So in that way, it was the perfect time for me to start, because I became sort of like a trendsetter in a way. I was entering into a mostly untouched market. So that helped. And at the time, a lot of YouTube content was very low budget. You could get away with just filming with natural light. I was just using the FaceTime camera on my laptop. I didn't have a professional mic. But in terms of YouTube expectations, things have changed significantly. So if I were to start right now, that might not be the best option. So I basically came in at the perfect time. But I also do recommend to people who are starting now, even though now viewers do expect high quality content, don't break the bank setting up your YouTube right from the start. Don't break the bank. Don't get the most expensive lighting and the most expensive camera and the most expensive mic. Don't start off that way, because YouTube is very much not for everyone. And I know a lot of people who spent thousands of dollars on the equipment and quit 6 months into it because they hated it, and they had every reason to hate it. There's there's pros and cons to it. So don't waste your money in that way. I would say if you're just getting started, an iPhone to record yourself is perfectly valid. If you're going to spend money on something, have it be a good quality mic. But even those, you can get a good quality mic for, a couple $100. It doesn't have to be the one I have, which, was way more expensive. This is my livelihood now, so I can afford to splurge, and I have lighting equipment. I don't think you need that right at the very start, but again, I've been doing this for almost a decade. So I need lighting equipment. And also you can get something like a ring light pretty cheap. So that would be my advice if you're just getting started, because you don't want to waste thousands of dollars on something that you end up just totally reviling, because it's not for everyone.
So when you say the pros and cons and it's not for everyone, so what are some of the awesome bits and what are some of the downsides to being a YouTuber?
Well, the awesome parts for me are, one, being able to be my authentic self, and people actually like that, especially being neurodivergent. I have one of those personalities that a lot of people are like, like when you're neurodivergent, you're used to people sort of being like, no, you have to change to fit our neurotypical mold. And it's been awesome having so many people like me, being the little weirdo that I am, so that's been enjoyable. Obviously, the fact that I can count the number of times I've paid for marketing for my books on 3 fingers. And my books are, have been #1 Amazon bestsellers. I've sold thousands and thousands of copies, and it's all like 90% of those sales is because of YouTube and just mentioning on my channel, hey guys, I have books, go ahead and buy them. So the free marketing element of YouTube is wonderful. The fact that there are so many different revenue streams through YouTube. You get ad revenue, you can have sponsorships, you can have affiliate arrangements. So as an author, I have like 6 or 7 different, categories of revenue stream. That's wonderful. And the fact that on YouTube, you get to cater your channel towards something that you're passionate about and interested in. I've been writing since I was 6, poorly at the time, but I was doing it. Like, writing has been my passion for my whole life. And it's been cool to be able to make videos about something I'm really, really passionate about, as opposed to having to fit into like a corporate mold or things like that. So those would be the pros, in my opinion. The cons are it's time consuming. I have to script all of my videos. I research them to make sure I'm giving, valid information and correct information. So it is time consuming. I'm an introvert introvert, so filming my videos is very is very much an energy suck. Afterward, I batch film, which means I film multiple videos at once. And that'll be several hours of just talking to no one. And then when it's over, I'm like, done. That's it. I'm going to be lying in bed, eating takeout, watching TV. There's nothing else is going on because my energy is sucked dry. The biggest con obviously is the trolls, the hate comments, people trying to threaten you or cyber stalk. That's obviously the biggest con, and not everyone can take that. I was very fortunate that I was bullied growing up, so I have very thick skin. So it's like, say what you want. Right. I'm like, say what you want. I've heard it all before. So that definitely helped. There was one other con that I wanted to add. Oh, as a writer on YouTube, if you make, or any platform at all, like if you're on TikTok or on Instagram, and you either give writing advice or you do book reviews, and then you release a book, you have to understand that people are going to judge your writing harsher than they would otherwise, because you're giving writing advice. So they want to make sure that you're following your own rules. And as far as book reviews go, I see this a lot where someone's a book reviewer on YouTube, then they release a book, and all the reviews are like, for someone who rated XYZ book so harshly, they're a worse writer than them. You get a lot of that. So that's just something to keep in mind. I'm not saying don't do those things. Obviously, I give writing advice. I'm just saying it's something to be prepared for. It absolutely has happened to me. However, my books are still very highly rated. So for me, it was worth it, because despite the fact that I'm opening myself up to a bit more criticism than the average author, my books are still very highly rated. So I kind of take that as like, oh, okay, like that's a good thing. I appreciate that. So yeah, but it's just something to keep in mind if you are going to go on YouTube in either of those directions, which you don't have to. Writers don't have to just give writing advice or just do book reviews. You can do something else entirely.
And I think it makes sense to talk about particularly the genre that you're writing in too, like you're saying before about, with fantasy and romance, usually most often writers write about genres that they love, write in the genres that they love. So I think that's, that makes sense to me if you're going to be an author.
So can I just ask, so do you ever do a post or a video that's just about one of your books, or do you just sort of casually mention at the end of a video, by the way, do you know, how do you work it?
I do videos just about my books. Usually it's around the release. So for example, when I released The Savior Sister, I did a video introducing the characters, and I had character art, and I had, the art alongside stats about the characters, little, get to know the characters sort of deal. Then I made another video where I was giving the backstory of the characters, and I've made a video explaining the world, or explaining, the tournament, because there's a deadly tournament in the book, things like that. But I usually do it around the book's release to try and get people excited about it and encourage them to pre-order.
Nice. Okay. So how often would your ideal publication schedule be, Jenna, in the ideal world?
Well, in the ideal world, I would love to at least release one book a year, but my life is crazy. So that doesn't happen usually. With The Savior's Champion and The Savior's Sister, those took about 2 years to release each. This next book has taken a century, but that's because my partner was undergoing a lot of health problems. So life, life happened, life got in the way. And then my writing craft book, that one was the fastest by far, because it's the shortest. My fiction books tend to be pretty beefy. They're thick books, but the writing craft book was much shorter. So that one took about 6 months, something a little bit more, feasible.
How many words are your fiction ones then?
About 160,000.
Oh,
They're big boys.
Wow.
And I always try and get them as short as possible, but it's that fantasy curse, it's like all the world and all the magic.
The building.
Exactly. That makes total sense.
Totally.
And so that's the story behind how do you get into it, but how long does it take you each week? How much, you film it in batches, you said. So editing, what do you have to do to the videos to get them all ready, and how long does it take you to put them up?
I script each video. So that's probably the most time consuming part of it. I record each video, and I would say each video takes about a half hour to record. So if I usually do 3 at a time. So that's about an hour and a half with a half hour of prepping beforehand, like all the equipment, getting my makeup on, all that stuff. And now I have a video editor. So I ship it off to the video editor, and they make it all pretty and nice and put it together and send it back to me. Before then, the video editing would be the longest. I mean, that could take, it depends on, it's a boring process to edit your own videos. So it kind of depends on how many breaks you take while you do it. But that could be like a whole day, for me. So that's just something for people to be aware of when they get into this. The video editing really takes a long time, and you don't want to skip it, because on YouTube, people expect the sharp cuts. They don't want, the rambling or the uhs and the ums. It's different than if you were to do like a podcast or something else. Different expectations. So unfortunately, you don't want to skip the edit for YouTube, even though it's very, very boring. So that would be the most time consuming thing. I would say that I usually devote about a week every month to YouTube, and then the rest of the month is for writing, business, marketing, that kind of stuff. But yeah, I would say anticipate about a week every month to do what you got to do for YouTube.
It's a significant amount of time, because you've also got obviously the comment monitoring and going in and replying and that kind of thing as well is very time consuming.
Well, I don't read the comments anymore, just because it's, like you get to a level where it's like, you can't control all the trolls, you know what I mean? So it's like, I don't need to deal with that. But fortunately, my comments are mostly positive, like overwhelmingly positive. But there's just comes a point where size-wise, where it's just not even feasible to manage the comments. But when you first get started, you absolutely should respond to the comments, because that's how people get engaged and become a fan and support you. But then it's like, once you hit like 50,000 followers, it's just not even a possibility anymore.
And you were talking about filming initially on your iPhone. So somebody starting out, how would they go about editing it if they're not going to hire somebody to do it for them? If they're going to do it themselves, did you have a program? There's iMovie available on your phone. I wouldn't recommend editing it on your phone, because that is going to be so slow. When I first got started, I used iMovie. It's free. I have it on my laptop. That's what I use to edit all of my video content. I filmed on my laptop when I first got started, so I would just put the footage directly into iMovie and start editing. No matter where you film it, you can upload it to iMovie and edit there. I think there is a free video editing software for PC, but I don't have a PC, so I'm not sure what it's called. I now use, or at least before I hired a video editor, I upgraded to Final Cut Pro. That is not free. But if someone is just getting started, there's free editing software. There's no need to splurge, at least at the start.
Nice.
That's cool.
Do you use other social media platforms at all, or are you just only YouTube?
Oh, I'm all over. I use Twitter, but I don't use it very often. I have a Facebook fan page. I'm on Instagram. That's probably where I post most often. I post to Instagram every day, and I have a TikTok. So yeah, I'm all over the place, but YouTube is, my biggest platform.
Do you repurpose your content for those other platforms, Jenna?
I absolutely do. Yes,
Okay,
I have a wonderful assistant who makes my life so much easier. She is literally an angel from heaven. And she takes my videos and she makes little 1-minute clips from them, and I post them to TikTok. I post them as YouTube shorts. I post them to Instagram, all that good stuff. And it's been a huge help.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I also have a blog, and it's all, basically my video content, but in written form.
Nice.
Ah, okay.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And do you do things like newsletter or any other?
Yes, I do. I have a newsletter. It's comes out every other week. And one of my features in my newsletter is I always make sure to, promote the latest YouTube video, so it's like, here, if in case you missed it, here's what came out yesterday, because my newsletter comes out on Thursdays and my videos come out on Wednesdays. But yeah, I definitely have a newsletter, and that I think every author should have a newsletter personally. It's like such a great way to keep in contact with your audience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Wow. You're a busy lady, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you think it's worthwhile now for an author to get into YouTube? Do you think it's something you would recommend to someone starting out?
I would say, yeah. Let me think about that. Yeah, I do think it's worthwhile to consider YouTube. Again, the reason I hesitate is because it really isn't for everyone. I know more people who've tried YouTube and then been like, this isn't for me, than if people who have tried it and been like, this is great, So it's one of those platforms where, you do kind of have to have the right mindset and skill set for it. You do have to be engaging and charismatic, and it doesn't mean you have to be identical to me, but you've got to have some kind of zhuzh, that people are drawn to, and a lot of people feel like, well, I'm not engaging, and I'm not this way. You're looking at yourself from a very different lens than other people are. Like I said, I'm neurodivergent. I've always thought like, oh, people think I'm weird. And look at my channel, like it totally blew up. What makes you engaging and interesting and charismatic may be completely different than what you define engaging and charismatic as. So don't count yourself out just because you're being hard on yourself. But basically, like I said, you have to have the right disposition for YouTube. But I do think it is definitely worth, utilizing. There are still authors all the time coming out on YouTube, getting into writing, advice videos, getting into Booktube, or just talking about, their genre as a whole, talking about, if you love fantasy, talking about fantasy movies or fantasy games and things like that. So yeah, I definitely think it is a great avenue to try. Just go into it with the idea that it's an experiment, because if you feel like at the end of the day, this is too draining, this isn't for me, I don't think I'm a right fit, it won't feel like a failure. It's just an experiment. We're just trying it out.
Great
Trying something
mindset.
out.
Yeah, I like that.
And going into it like that is the way to do it, isn't it? Because then if it doesn't work, because it's not always going to suit everyone, because like you say, the personality is everything, isn't it?
Right. And you also have to understand that your first few videos are gonna suck no matter what. So you just got to kind of get over the fear of it has to be perfect. My first few videos are long deleted. They're bad, so it's like you have to get over the fear of sucking, because you're gonna suck. That's just the way it is. It's like you're gonna start off bad. So get it over with, and also understand that this is not an overnight thing. I mean, it took me like a year before my platform, really, took off, and it was a long time before I started making any money off of it. So don't expect it to be like, I posted my first video, I have 100,000 subscribers. That's not how it works.
And you should enjoy being anonymous too, enjoy that and work out what works for you until you are not anonymous anymore, and then everyone's going to be watching everything you do.
And that's the key right there is, all of my worst videos were from when I first started, and thus they are the least viewed videos because no one was watching, no one cares, so it's like, be grateful that that you have no followers right now, because you get to suck in private pretty much. Like no one's gonna see how awful you are right now. That's a blessing.
That's the truth. We were the same when we first started.
We really did suck.
I've since deleted all of those early ones. I'm like, no, no one needs the evidence of that.
We haven't deleted ours.
We haven't. They're still there somewhere.
Shocking as they are.
Oh my god!
It was 410 something episodes ago, so we figure,
Nobody's going to go that far.
No one's going to go back that far.
Nobody is as surprised as us that we're still doing this every week.
For sure.
So, man. Are there any other pieces of advice or anything else that you think that you'd like to tell people about maybe doing YouTube, or what else can we?
I think the biggest mistake a lot of people make is they go into it thinking, what can my audience give to me? So they go into it, and their very first video is, hi, my name is Jenna Moreci. I write this. This is all about me, blah, 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 blah. You know, they make it all about themselves. You don't have an audience. No one cares who you are. No one is like, let me go onto YouTube and find a meet a random person video. Like, no one's doing that. You have to, you know, like that doesn't happen, you know?
Yeah.
And so you have to go into it with the intention of, what can I give my audience? What is something valuable that I could provide to them? It could be humor. It could, you know, be a chuckle. It could be really interesting facts about Lord of the Rings. It could be writing advice in my case. It could be book reviews. What can you provide that to your audience that will bring them to you? And then once you've developed that audience, once they have developed a loyalty to you and your content, that's when they will start to become interested in you as a person and what you are creating. So that's when you can be like, hey guys, like, you've been here for a while, so let me introduce myself and tell you a little bit about me and what I'm working on. Because at that point, there will be a level of loyalty there. They're not just there to consume your product and to consume your content. They're there now because they are a fan of Jenna Moreci or of whatever your name is, you know, like they're there because they like you. And that's when you can start, you know, divulging a little bit about what you're doing as a writer.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
Great
that's
advice.
awesome.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and that's right back to the beginning again, isn't it? It's kind of like, also be authentic and find something that interests you, and not don't do Lord of the Rings tips if you don't actually like Lord of the Rings, maybe that kind of thing.
Right. You'll never see me make a Lord of the Rings video because I can't stand Lord of the Rings. So it's like, but there are plenty of YouTubers who love it, and perfect, that you found your niche, go for it, you know, but it's not going to be me.
So you talked about Booktube and Authortube. So if I was someone wanting to go onto YouTube, how do I find Booktube and Authortube? Like, do you just type in the
I mean, you could just type in Booktube or Authortube, and it will take you to a bunch of videos. But pretty much, people refer to Booktube as anyone who makes videos about books. So if you were to just type in, you know, a popular book right now, you'll get a ton of videos, and now you know you're in Booktube land. Authortube is what a lot of writers on YouTube call themselves. I personally don't call myself an authortuber, just because I feel like it kind of, you know, it's, well, I just don't really like labels. So I don't want to, I just consider myself a writer and a YouTuber. But pretty much if you wanted to find writing advice or author content on YouTube, you would just type in exactly what you're looking for, like, how do I write a book, or how do I self-publish, or things like that, and you'll just find a ton of videos and, you know, content creators who are making stuff all about that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then I guess you look at the number of subscribers and go, okay, so maybe this person knows what they're talking about and other people like them, so therefore I should listen to them. I mean, you know, sure.
And don't forget, it's a search engine, so you know, once YouTube learns what you like watching, it's going to give you more of what you like, of what you're already watching, kind of thing.
If you've changed your mind.
Exactly.
Throwing those suckers at you.
Absolutely.
Done.
Awesome. All right, well, I think unless anyone else has any more questions for Jenna, I'm just full of information now. I'm just
Everybody needs to go watch Jenna on YouTube. All the links are going to be in this podcast, and also obviously buy and read her books, including Shut Up and Write the Book. Definitely go watch her. She's an absolute delight on YouTube.
Thank you so much. Oh my gosh, it was such an honor to be here. Thank you. Thank you so much.
No worries at all. So I guess that's where you can be found. Go to YouTube and look at, and what's the channel called again? It's
called Writing with Jenna Moreci. That's Moreci, or you could just do youtube.com/Jenna Moreci, and you'll find me.
That's where to go. Awesome. And do you have a website, like where your blog is and everything? Where's that?
Yes, it's jennamoreci.com. I'm pretty much everywhere at Jenna Moreci.
Okay, awesome. That's fantastic. And Shah, where can we be found?
So we can be found on YouTube at Spa Girls Podcast, and we can be found everywhere at Spa Girls Podcast, except TikTok, which I tried and we didn't like, and so now we don't. It's a living example of learning from, trying it, experimenting, didn't work. If you are watching this on YouTube, we would absolutely love it if you would like, subscribe, and drop us a comment and let us know how you found us.
Awesome. So thank you, everyone. And thank you, Jenna, for joining us.
Thank
for
you. It was my pleasure.
No worries at all. So thank you all for joining us for another episode of the Spa Girls podcast. We'll be back again next week. But for now, goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Keep well.
Bye.